Okay. There's a lot going on before the end of the year, and we're in our last PI sprint session as well. So there's a heap going on. Mike, you might be able. You want to? Oh no, here's Red Pill now. Evening, Red Pill.
Good evening.
Just got a few of the stragglers coming in now. Do you, in Luke's absence, do you want to do the honours of starting with a bit of a product update, and then we can go around the table?
Yeah, sure. So that not major updates. Like we're working on a couple of quality of life improvements, a couple of things like muting improvements, a couple of other things around the economy, about tournaments, and a couple of other things that will probably come out rather in Q1 of next year. But one thing that we're actually doing now is we are onboarding a new team, like another team of developers, and that's very exciting because yeah, we're getting pretty good. We think they're pretty good, and they will help us move faster as well, and get those things included into builds faster, and do much more with the plans that we have for next year. So that's the focus right now. We're getting them onboarded, and they're starting. They started actually today. We kicked it off today, and the other devs that were working on the project before are helping them, and then we will get. Yeah, we'll soon probably get a new build out as well next week, with a couple of improvements. But yeah, very excited for getting a bigger team and more developers to focus on that.
We did see also someone said to mention the jumping. So I think what they're referring to is we when we were in there, we were jumping from a gargoyle on top of the castle. So I think that every week guys are working out how to hack some jumps into different areas and stuff. There's no new jumping features that we've added though, right? It's all the same.
Being the alpha jumper and the master jumper at this point, I can take this topic.
Oh Lord!
At least you know it's true. So one of the accidental features, it's definitely going to be a feature that happened that we never knew would be so popular, was the ability to spawn a pet in the air and it stays there. And if you get a whole bunch of people, you can kind of jump boost and spawn your pets and all this kind of thing. So we basically exploit that to get into all sorts of different spots in all sorts of different places at the moment. So that's what was happening today in that video. We were using the pets to jump into the dome in the DJ events and to get onto the castle, and obviously we're exploring a lot more. It's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
You're right. You're right. That's the clarification. I've got the clarification. They were saying it's pet stacking. Yeah. I don't think that's it's not necessarily. Well, it is jumping related, but like Micah just said, you have the ability to spawn a pet in. And you've seen the guys get pretty high, and they can jump from a pretty high distance. It's kind of interesting because what I was saying the other week was, and I'm being honest, you go into a DJ event and it's great to see the scenery changing, and it's great to hear good music. And in VR, it's kind of interesting because you don't just want to listen to the music and wave your hands around in the air for 40 minutes, but what's good is to walk around, socialize, talk, listen to the music. And I think out of pure interest, people had sort of experimented, and Lala's like, you say you're the king of the jumps, but Lala has gone into every corner of every room pretty much, Lala, haven't you? And tried to find some way that she can jump, fly, exploit gravity.
Yeah.
Capacity.
Breaking whatever or seeing whatever is there.
Exactly. So as a result of that, that's what we're talking about with the pet stacking. It's not necessarily pet stacking. It's more sort of spawning pets in the middle of the air and then being able to boost yourself and jump up. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So other things that I got asked to mention were, and I think we've got a few questions as well. Other things that I was asked to mention was in relation to guests going on walkthroughs. So we've been told for a while now that walkthroughs have been happening. Are there any walkthroughs of interest, or is there any new updates that you can give us in relation to this? We've continued to do walkthroughs. We've continued to take more people through. As stated, being honest, from our side, it's not difficult to get people to go on walkthroughs, and the results have been good. I think anybody who comes and physically sees the space is extremely excited by it. And I think we've been very honest about this. It's more a matter of, can we accommodate what they're actually trying to do, or do we have the capacity for that, or is the technology available to do what people are trying to do? So we very much are still in a hand-holding phase of helping these people that are coming in to get on and to get in. And so that's what we're doing. We're talking to a lot of people. We're starting relationships with a lot of different partners and potential partners, and we're also continuing talks with a lot of people. We're at the moment trying to help educate people on what's available now and what we can do right now, and then trying to educate people on what phases and stages come next. And the other question that I got was, are we looking to partner with people for running of spaces? So that's something we've mentioned before, and the answer is yes to that. We've even seen stuff like the DJ events areas. As you know, there's nothing stopping us from creating multiple versions of these types of event areas. And yes, we've said this since day one. We don't want to be the people that do anything beyond the example of what can be done and then bring out the tools. We want creators to come in, because if it's us doing it all, A, it's slower, and B, it's the same audience, right? What we want is the creators to come in, build a brand and build audiences. So the answer to that is yes, and we are 100% talking to and looking at and vetting potential parties that could take over running or facilitating events or an area. The more people that we can have do that, the better. So, if you've got people that you think would be good at that, groups that you think would be good at that, then get in touch. That's the whole idea of the Vault, right? We'll try and help facilitate that as best we possibly can. And like stated, the reason you'd get in touch at this stage is because there is still an element of hand-holding. But future forward, we will work towards expediting and getting to a point where we don't have to handhold and people can do it themselves. But at this particular point in time, it's an excellent exercise for us to gather all the information on people coming in, what they like, what they're trying to do, and it helps us to build a better product. So I hope I answered that okay.
I think Phil wanted to say something because I heard him try to talk. Phil, are you there?
Is he talking now? I can't hear.
Is this any better? Hello?
Yep.
Yes.
It's slightly
There you
There
better.
you are.
All right.
You're like
Yeah,
a third
so I just-
edition COG.
I just wanted to add to what Joe was saying. So he was talking about the new devs. That includes Quest. So they are currently doing a code review and will help us clear out all the remaining bugs, and then we will start on new development. So finally, things are development-wise happening with Quest again. I think it's also worth mentioning Benny, Carl, or Defiant, who's here with us tonight, has done an excellent job of integrating his scene in the Vault, and it's we've been bringing people into his scene to show our other potential partners what can be done. outside of our templates. So I just wanted to thank Carl for working with us and being that pioneer with us.
Yeah, thanks, mate, and thanks for the Phil for the shout out to Carl as well, because you're right. That's the saying. No one wants to be the first, and no one wants to be the last. I mean, to actually come in and actually do some of that building out is fantastic, but it's also it's good for you. It's good for us as well, because we get to learn on what we can do better or what tools are needed. So I think it's a great learning exercise for all, and I think that what you'll end up doing is either A, encouraging a lot more people to build, or B, you're going to end up with a queue at your door saying, "Help me too," which is probably a bit of both happening there. Thank you, Phil. Lala, do you want to do anything now, or do you want to wait till the end?
I'll wait for mine today because mine is mostly events updates, so I don't want people to forget. They might forget as we go along.
Okay.
All right, I'll kick off the questions, and I'll start from the very first three that I got, and I'll follow up with Atish's questions because he has like a whole list of questions down in the chat as well. So first question, loving the recent Twitter activity from Benny, which leads me to ask about the bomb of a tweet he dropped about hundreds of thousands entering the vault and partnerships with bleeding edge gaming and AI companies. Can you expand on this at all? Thanks for the burst of bullishness.
Yeah, so if we in the context of growth and adoption and all the rest of it, hundreds of thousands of customers is something that you would need just to sort of exist and grow. So I think when you put things into helicopter terms and you look at it from sort of the trajectory of growth that you would go through when you're transitioning through the stages like we are, that's going to be natural. And to be honest, if you ended up with just hundreds of thousands of customers, you would be pretty I'd say it's going to be pretty hard to make a crust or survive for any long period of time. So I think that's a very shallow estimate of the types of numbers of customers that will come in and come through. And I think some of the other platforms, even look at VR Chat's numbers and stuff, and other VR platform numbers. I was shocked when I was going through some of the paid apps on the Quest store, how many users they have, even though they've got quite a hefty price tag to get in, and it's just one game. So I think that those types of numbers are pretty easy to achieve. As far as partners and stuff are concerned, we're already starting to partner with a number of different people, and we're already integrating tools from a lot of different people as well. So we're just working behind the scenes on what that looks like, but also, as stated, in an early stage that we're in, a lot of the partners that we're looking to do work with will either be them having fairly early stage products and us being able to provide a platform for them to test. Some of it would be co-marketing and branding. Others will be more collaborative that will be over a course of time. And of course, we have the opportunity to partner with people that are providing more of the engine side or server side sort of things as well. So I think for us, it's pretty good because we're in a situation now where we're not going out to people and just talking about a concept. We're showing people, and like we've said with walkthroughs, people are pretty keen to get involved and to help. And some of the people that we'd sort of reached out to, talked to, looked at integrating, we sort of very honestly had sort of struggled to sort of get a call back from some people, because we're also crossing the border from what would be considered to be the Web3 space into some of these Web2 traditional players that have tools and things that we could use. And once they have a look at what we've got, it's been pretty easy to get people onto a call and to work out what we could do together. So I think with a lot of those bleeding edge companies, we could end up being a test ground, but that's fine. A lot of those companies might want to trial something before it goes to market, see if it's got appeal in an actual environment. Because if I'm a producer of a tool and I can't put it in an actual environment, then I'm relying on my customers and the people I sell to use that tool. So the Vault has kind of a very cool proposition because it gives people a chance to click in quickly and easily into a platform where users can actually come in and test the products and services and see whether or not there is any appeal.
The next question, is there a plan for having an RFOX node in the future?
We're looking at lots of different things at the moment. So I'm not going to say that there is not a chance that it will happen. I think everything's open, and I think we've learned one thing in this space, and that's to be open to options and opportunities. Yeah, we're continually always looking at what the future looks like, and I think if any of you have seen the EU news from Paul Barron and some of the news that's coming out over the last couple of weeks as well, is there's been a sudden flip in mindset from people saying, you know, bury your crypto and bury the NFTs and bury the Web3 mentions, and metaverses is a black, shitty word. Crypto is a shitty black word. It's gone from being that to we're open to it, it's acceptable. It's coming into a phase of regulation that would probably see that adoption expedited. So to be clear with everybody, and I think if you watch that EU thing, if you haven't watched it, it's a Paul Barron interview or, you know, news story. It goes for about 14 minutes. If you're not bullish on the state of metaverses and crypto by the end of watching that, then I don't know what would make you. But quietly on the inside, I think I danced harder than I have for a long, long time, just for the fact that it's just another big tick of validation that we're on the right path. And we internally, we have the same struggles that everybody would in sometimes shortcuts seem appealing, sometimes doing things in a different way than what you're doing them seems appealing. And we've sort of stuck to our guns and taken a long route, built something a bit more complex, but ultimately I think we're finally getting more and more ticks of validation that we're on the right path. But none of that means anything unless we can start to really market, advertise, and get people in. And that's why we need to make sure that our platform's stable and the tools are finished so that we can put the foot down and really motor ahead with that.
Is there a list of mobile devices known to have difficulty interacting with the Vault? And if so, how does the line of incompatibility get announced prior to onboarding the masses?
I think Joe might be able to touch on that one, but the one or two lines that I can say is if you look at any platform that is adding tons more features and better technology, you'll find that the support for older devices or devices with less power, let's say, are ones that sort of either struggle or get cut from support lists. Joe, I don't know if you want to add or if you want to give some context.
As you said, it's a little bit tricky sometimes with new features that we integrate to always have the whole, device compatibility with all the different models. And we're trying to do that, but sometimes, you will basically also miss some. And yeah, as I said, like some level of the platform, lower power devices will not be compatible anymore. Yeah, we can definitely assess that option to just put out those lists, or at least assess it prior to new builds. But yeah, currently, since we're adding so many features, sometimes there's just maybe, for example, too many assets in there, or some animation is maybe too expensive performance-wise, and then that would already break some lower-end devices. So yeah, there's also a lot of optimization we're doing right now with the new developers. So it might be that we definitely will improve that stuff. It might be that some devices that are not supported now will be supported again once those optimizations are done. But yeah, it's not that clear and easy to identify.
And to further to your point, I mean, I might be a little less soft or tactical, but the fact is that, you know, people do ask for better functionality and more features and more technology to be crammed in, especially with this AI movement. And with that, as Joe said, that means that the further you go, the older or lower powered devices are going to inevitably struggle. And at this particular point in time, you know, the comparison's been made by tech people much smarter than me that sort of that the headsets are kind of level with a lot of phones in certain capabilities and capacities, but they're going to move quickly and they're going to develop quickly. Look at Quest 3 and how much of an improvement that's been. So our ultimate goal long term is, of course, to really cater for that VR first market. But obviously we are providing the support for those phones, but it is inevitable that as we add more and become more feature rich, that older phones might not have the power or capacity to be able to have the same type of full experience. So it's a trade-off. But if you've been following Roblox or some of these other platforms, they've just started sort of bringing out lists of, as they're adding tons of features and power to their platform, they've started coming out and saying, sorry, phones with these specs or of this, unless they meet these minimum specifications, then you're not going to either get an experience or any type of experience based on what we're offering. So as Joe said, it's a temperamental thing, but we will try and keep updating the lists of devices or minimum requirements when we can.
Alrighty, so I'm going to move forward to Atish's question. When will Vault transactions start to happen?
I know the answer to that. I just don't know what we've published so far, but we will. I don't know, Lala, with where we're up to on the release of the communications, but
Not yet.
Okay. So all I'll say is that the answer to your question will be communicated very shortly. The comms have already been done, but the first stages of this you're going to start to see very, very shortly. So yes, just wait for that announcement. It's already on the tip of everybody's typewriter or tongues or whatever. It's about to be put forward.
Alrighty, I'll move on to the next one. If so, are there any numbers available of previous fiscal revenue?
As we start to roll this out, you'll be able to see a lot of what's actually transacting or going through. So I think once we've started to put out the plan and strategy for the economy, it'll be much easier for us to be able to do those types of forecasts. So again, once that rolls out, we'll be able to show you and you'll be able to see those transactions happening just by going in and participating, and also by through the obvious normal vetting measures. So at this particular point in time, as you know, there's not been transactions or much to speak of in the way of revenue for this year. This has been a building year. But that's, as we've stated, we're going to transition next year from being really build to having a stable platform out, finishing the SDK and APIs to a basic level so that we can start to really expedite that onboarding process. And then next year will be the first year that we've really sort of seen the focus on bringing people and transactions in and through.
Alrighty. Has there been any new staking pools released in the last 12 months, and why?
Staking pools in the last 12 months, gosh, I'm the worst person to ask as far as timeframes are concerned. I get confused on what month we're in now. In the last year, good question. I don't know if it's been in the last year. I think roughly we've had a couple of staking pools. We're looking at options for that now. As stated, when we go through this first iteration of the economy, where we're looking at a lot of different things right now as far as future forward is concerned, and we're working with different groups and models for what we can do, because we obviously want to make sure that we are, our primary focus is to bring people into the vault, creators first, users, and keep those people engaged and coming back. So the engagement and stickiness is what we're actually really looking at. We haven't decided on a particular path as far as the staking is concerned. We're more looking at it from the perspective of how do we keep people engaged, keep them coming back in, and not make it just so that it's a continual sort of grind to be there type of situation, because that's obviously fallen on deaf ears in previous cycles. If when we're doing that, and as a result of doing that, staking puts its hand up to be one of those avenues that's going to help with moving that needle, then of course we will say yes or consider that. But without explaining exactly what's happening and what we're negotiating, working on now, all options are being explored. But again, the primary goal is to get people, users and creators in there and coming back, but because they like the product and they love the product, not because they have to do something that they hate in the hope that whatever they're getting for that thing they hate is likely to go up in value. It should be a matter of balancing the reward mechanisms and engagement mechanisms with a great product. And in our case, a good product that's going to get better and become great through the usage and feedback and us tinkering with those results and feedback that comes through. So I know that sounds very ambiguous, but ultimately staking is definitely one of those things that we've looked at, one of those things that we're considering. But ultimately, if it drives the right behaviors and it moves the right needles, then that's something that we would look at.
All right, fourth question. Has the original tokenomics of RFOX token been tied underneath multiple currency purchases inside the ecosystem as intended?
So with the upcoming sort of economy versions, and they will be multiple, so there'll be V1, V2, and then they'll continue. We sort of, as always, have stated exactly like you say. So the way you've worded that question, for those who are not aware, we've always sort of had the belief that we should be able to sort of accept whatever's in somebody's pocket, so to speak. And then we want to make sure that the RFOX token is the token that powers the transactions in the vault, including like we've talked about offboarding mechanisms that would convert through RFOX as well. So that's part of what we're about to start releasing. The first stage is very simple, but ultimately we have never had any real great need, desire, or intention to deviate from initial designs at all. We just want to make sure that that we are making the gateways in as easy as possible, and the gateways out, it would be preferable for those to be RFOX related. So that's what we're working on as we speak. And we're also, as stated, because you've asked this many times before, is as far as payment rails or partners are concerned, we don't want to do the rails side of things. And for those who don't know what rails are, the on-ramps and the off-ramps, because as you would probably be well aware, that requires generally in many countries for you to have some form of electronic money license or banking license or something like that. So we're very happy to partner with people to do that. And as you can imagine, there'd be no shortage of services and partners that are looking to help do that. But if you've had a look at some of the other platforms, and even the bigger ones like your Roblox and stuff, you'll see that there's they accept currencies from all over the world and all different types of transaction methods and stuff for people to get in to their internal currency. So again, we would not be looking at obviously going around and brokering deals with hundreds of countries and different dollars and monetary systems. It would be much better for us to pair with a partner to do that for us. So yes. So what we'd do is use them for onboarding and potentially helping with the offboarding. Some of them don't do offboarding yet, but they're just starting to, and that's where RFOX comes in handy.
Has there been any thought about beta tester slammer choobs? I think I'm up to 3, and I'm sure others would have 10 or more. What else can we do with them?
Let me chime in on this one. So the beta slammers were never intended to be choobed. You know, they're more of a flex to break out in a slam game. So I don't think there's any concrete plans to choob the beta slammers because first of all, no one was ever originally intended to get more than one anyway. But you never know, you know, in the future. So I won't say never, but that was never the original intention.
There you go. So number 6, it's an interesting one. With CZ stepping down from Binance, will RFOX look at hiring him?
Of course not. No. The thing with that's a question we got asked a couple of times during the week is what do we think that would mean for Binance and all the rest of it. I think Binance has been going for such a long period of time now that it's bigger than any one person, and he of course was the face of Binance, and for a lot of people he was the face of crypto. I'm sure that he's still going to float around and do his bit and bob up and do different things, but he's pretty much signaled that he wants to go and be an investor and do a whole lot of different things. But in relation to the question, if I wanted to read 10 layers deep into that question, as we grow and as we go into the next phase of delivering the platform and getting that into as many hands as possible, we definitely would target skill sets and people that have experience scaling platforms and the type of business that we're in. Because as most of you would know, when you go through phases of a company, you require different skills. And we've had to really sort of, let's be fair when we say, when we first started on this journey, there was a lot of people sitting around with sticks, rubbing sticks together, trying to make fire. And now that a lot of the hard work and the train tracks have been laid, we're now getting to a phase where we're crossing over into Web 2 audience space, and Web 2 is crossing over into trying to transition into Web 3. So this is where people with experience from the Web 2 space for the first time really become hugely valuable and necessary. You've probably heard lots of podcasts and Twitter spaces where people say that they've had to transition across to Web 3. They thought it would be easy. It's a different rule book. It's a different world. That will still play true for some of this, but for salespeople, people that can, as I say, build platforms and networks and all the rest of it, that's something that we'd have to sort of bolster our stocks on. It's a different skill set that we've needed up to this point, and it is something that we'll need going forward. So high profile people that can give the platform some air and get it out and give it more attention and stuff would definitely be on the radar, but CZ would, of course, not be one of those people.
With KOGs quests being down due to a fault not related to RFOX, when will RFOX not need to rely on third parties so to never have a product out of service again? Wen RFOX Chain.
We've looked at all options. We're always exploring all options and just sort of lifting up the curtain, so to speak. We cannot stand. It's infuriating when you do the best you possibly can and you do a lot of groundwork to set things up, and then somebody else is responsible for something not working, and that goes for anybody. Like if it's AWS, if it's a apparent shark that eats an underwater sea cable that causes internet outages in places that believe that. The thing is that ultimately it's horrible, and you don't want to rely on anybody else. There's certain things you have to, and there's certain things that areas of our business that will never be big enough to not rely on somebody else. There's no getting around that. But when it comes to simple stuff like this, it infuriates us, and we're always looking for ways to take as much control as we possibly can. I think the first step is actually having some sort of understanding and some sort of heads up of a lot of the things that might happen. I think with bigger providers, you often get an outage notification or a heads up that something's happening, and you can plan accordingly. But when lights go out and you've got 10 people running around the house bumping into furniture and trying to work out what's happening and how to turn the lights back on, that's not a situation that any of us want to be in. So whether a chain, for example, fixes that, in most of the situations that we have to deal with, it possibly wouldn't. In some it would, but that therefore comes a whole new set of problems as well, as far as security and protection, monitoring and maintenance and all the rest of it. But ultimately, I think what's really important for us to provide a really great experience to people and a great product and a stable platform is we have to get more robust measures and partners and support in place to be able to do that. And in most areas, there are lots of candidates putting their hands up to do that properly. In a few areas, we're still playing in the sandpit and asking mum to come over with a hose to make a bit more mud for us to build a castle. So there's a few Mickey Mouse operations, and there's a few nice ones coming through. So I'm being very tame here, and I'm probably going to get myself into trouble if I say much more. So it's something that we're constantly looking at trying to fix, because I tell you, whatever frustration you might have at your end, don't think it's not over this side, because it's probably 5 times stronger at this side, because the situations that we can control, we get berated. For situations that we can't control, we still get berated. So it's kind of like you can't win in either situation. So and the buck stops with us. If we put something out, it's got our name on it, then we're responsible. So that's the part that hurts. So please know that we don't take that lightly, and we are trying to fix everything.
Yeah, and just one couple of points I want to add. First of all, if you're a startup and you want us, like, test product, if you want to get out there, launch the product, get features in and things like that, using a component method, like we just use different third parties, is definitely the only way to really scale fast, right? We can't build each of those things perfectly ourselves and then launch it and get that feedback from users. Like, the idea is really to use whatever we can use, and the things that we need to build custom, we build custom. But it's really like that question and that balance. And the question is, like, who do you choose as your third party provider? So and as you said, like, for it's a risk to have like a bunch of different third parties, especially like smaller ones, and they do critical functions in your product. So usually, if you go with like really big providers, like let's say AWS, or if let's for example say OpenAI for the AI features that we have, that should cover us pretty well. And then there are like thousands of other smaller third-party providers that could also provide some specific features, but those are a bit higher risk, obviously. So yeah, I think it's always just a risk that you got to balance, but you have to do it to move fast, because there's no way building all of those things out yourself. There's so much tech out there on the market, and we need to leverage that technology. And at the same point, we're building the in a way that we can exchange components or modules with others if they break. So for example, if we have an AI API that can change textures, for example, and that third party that we're using is not working anymore, we can immediately port to another one. And being flexible and dynamic in that way is really important. So we never basically integrate things and can't replace them quickly, and that's very important.
And with KOGs Quest specifically, that's definitely one of the first things that we will look to improve in the client. So right now, the WAX API is hard-coded into the client. So we're looking at the ability to change to an alternative endpoint, but the truth is, WAX is still the most stable. The official endpoint is still the most stable. But you know, we're looking to have that ability to change it as needed when one is down.
That's it's an interesting picture you got there, Artesh. I don't know where you got that.
Looks like Mid-Journey to me.
It does, doesn't it? Must be interesting. No comment. I'm kind of lost and tripping up over that. Young Joe's Red Pill's probably pissing himself laughing at the minute. Yes, so all of those points that those guys made are true, and I guess the one point to reiterate is that when we put something out, and as Red Pill said, you partner with a lot of different people because you need to expand and grow quickly. We're still putting them out under our umbrella, so we still have to be able to take the hit and also fix it quickly. And again, those third parties as well. Like a lot of people ask, why don't you sort of advertise those a lot more at the forefront, and who you work with, and in true crypto fashion, it's more sort of, someone actually like buys AWS server capacity and says, we're partnered with AWS. No, you're not. But ultimately, we have to also, when you're using so many third-party tools, be able to sort of switch those out at the back and then say we've got a better option, or we've got something that's more stable or faster, without people saying, hey, what happened to that relationship, or with those people? Crypto's kind of like, because it's all very much about the tech at the forefront, it's all about naming all of those things and trying to get that legitimacy. And as a result of that, you've got a bit of explaining to do if you ever want to swap a provider, which is kind of a bit ridiculous. MiCAH basically described to the public that the RFOX Vault is very welcome to take over the world. It's crazy. Yeah, it's funny, Voltox, because the first thing that I saw, for those who don't know what he's talking about, he's referring to the EU situation, the announcement we're talking about with Paul Barron. The first thing I saw was everybody saying Sandbox was going to be, or Decentraland's going to be. There was a lot of talks about how this would impact different things, and we saw a lot of gaming platforms. We saw a lot of different platforms being measured and talked about, and I think that's good. It's going to boost everything, but from a structure perspective, I think that those metaverses that are sort of delving into the whole VR that can then delve into retail, commerce, gaming, tourism, mental health, all of that type of stuff. It puts us in a very good position, in a strong position. So again, no good to anybody unless we can sort of get that in people's hands and get people using it and get people seeing it. So that's why the transition next year will be to educating and onboarding people. Thank you for asking all those questions I wrote down during the past week. Don't mind saying, Artesh, you've come at us with a cow prod there, haven't you? Electric cow prod. That's good though. It's good to get those questions. And I think the thing is that quite often, as I say, it's not like we don't know what we're doing on the platform and we don't know what we're doing behind the scenes. This is something that we live, sleep, eat, and breathe. I think one thing that we've matured with over the years, and that's not because we just didn't know what we were doing or whatever before, it's more about, we've got a lot of real world business experience, but the thing is that this space demands you to sort of provide continual updates on things that you don't have yet or things that aren't there yet. So in the beginning, when it is in conceptual stage, you tend to talk about things that you will be doing and what they might look like and all the rest of it. And what we've done as we've gone on and gotten closer to having something that's more stable and more adoptable and something that's going to be closer to the end product, we've tried to be a little bit more guarded with what we talk about because A, it becomes very competitive, and B, we also sort of need wiggle room because we're building at a furious pace, adding things very, very quickly. We often break stuff when we add stuff, and we have to be very mindful of the fact that you can't measure certain things in very finite timeframes anymore. Some things take longer, some things are shorter. And the way that this tech is progressing, like a couple of the things that we had going on behind the scenes that you don't know about and won't know about now, when they finally do come to light or we push things out, they will look completely different than they would have 6 or 8 weeks ago. And if we had have gone out with that type of stuff or talked about that stuff, we'd be trying to madly claw that back now saying, oh shit, that's already redundant. There's a much better way to do that now. So when you're moving at this pace and you're dealing with technologies that haven't been combined in a way that we're doing them, you have to sort of have a little bit of wiggle room and leeway. So we're trying to be a little bit guarded with the way we answer things and trying to make sure that we can just talk about them as we deliver them to you so that it's not sort of seen as being, oh, you guys promised this and that never happened. It's a tough space to build in, and anyone who's jumped over this side of the fence knows that it's really, really hard space to build in. It's not like Web 2 space at all. It's really, really difficult. Lala, over to you.
Alrighty. So, as usual, we have something lined up for Friday. I shared the link on Discord. It's going to be, I think, 5:30 my time. So it's going to be about 8:30 Sydney time. Please do drop by. I believe her name is Sahaja, which in Bahasa, fun fact, it means only. So I'm guessing she's Indonesian or Malaysian. That's what I'm going to guess. So we're going to, as usual, party in the district, in the DJ district. And of course, Gecko will be there. And he'll probably teach a lot of you who may not know how to high jump. And that will be a good time for you guys to learn and figure out how to do that and just meet the team. Apart from that, December is just around the corner. So stay tuned for some Christmas festivities as well as giveaways. And we will be trying to do another DJ hour this week, but I will double check and double confirm on the exact timings because we all know we love giveaways, don't we? So there will be some extra news for KOGs this week, but please do give us some time. If anything, check out our announcements because that's where I'll be leaving all the hints, clues, and everything else in between. All right. So, yep, that's pretty much me, actually.
Thank you, Lala. Anything further from your side, Phil or MiCAH or Red Pill, that we've not got to?
Nothing from me.
Nothing I'm allowed to talk about.
Yeah, I think there's still a fair bit that we have actually put out that we haven't probably talked enough about yet, or haven't got people to come in and do. But definitely get along to the DJ events and go check out the new build if you haven't, especially if you've got a VR headset. I'm about to order my Quest 3. I know a few people on the team have got Quest 3, but Luke's come around a few times to my place, or I've gone to meet him in certain times of the year, and he's actually always got the latest gadgets. He's got a Quest 3, and the comparative difference between the Quest 3 and Quest 2 is kind of startling. Like, the difference is just it's pretty mind-blowing. So get in there and have a look at the new builds, the definition. For those that were complaining that the graphics weren't good enough, as always stated, we're pushing the boundary, but it's getting better and better. And I think the lovely Lala will be able to sort of show us towards the end of the year just how far we've come. And it's been a pretty big journey over the past year. Sometimes you've got to look back to sort of realise where you are.
Oh yeah, I think those who are there for the MVP know what we're talking about.
I think the flying was fun though, and we did. If you remember, one of the first ever times we took people into the vault and sort of had, in the first iteration, I don't even know if you want to call it vault, we sort of said to people, they said, "What can you do in here?" And we said, "You can actually climb up the top of all of these buildings and off suicide jumps." And
Minty was the first thing that people went for.
We were halfway through the sentence, and then I turned around and everyone was already off and climbing up the building, and it was like ants jumping off the buildings, and that's all people did. They went in there and just jumped off the building top. So not much has changed. We're just a little bit more sophisticated in the way we jump off now.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, get in there, support the vault, support the artists that are coming in, because you'd expect the same. And for you guys who are looking, I know we've had a couple of people reach out and ask if they can host stuff. Now's the time to do that, prior to it getting full and busy and all the rest of it. I've had a group of young guys ask if they can do a birthday party in an apartment. So there's all sorts of different requests. It's good to just get people in there and to try things and to see how it goes. So get in there, enjoy it, give us some feedback, tell us what's working and what's not. We do act on that feedback. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And get in there, have a look, give us your feedback. It's really important. And we're heading towards that stable build and the tools to be able to just start really putting the foot down. So very exciting times. Parkour course in the vault. Don't know, but I know we've had repeated calls for some sort of group activities, and we've sort of talked and jested about like an amazing race type thing. And I think it gravitates towards that, Hanford. There's nothing we can do to escape it. We've always got, like, we go in there tonight and they've worked out, as I said, how to jump on the gargoyles, heading up on top of the castle, and there's something every week like that. I think if you put all that together, you probably end up with something pretty close to parkour. Lala's go in there and see if you can catch Lala in there, because she knows every single cranny in there.
Yeah,
You'll
everything's a
less
feature.
places than me.
You just like to touch the disco ball. You like touching that. I don't know why.
I like touching big sparkly balls.
There you go.
There you go. His real self is coming out, man.
On that note, again, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And come in and give us your feedback and hang out in the vault. It's much more personal to hang out in the vault than it is here. So see you in there, and have a fantastic week, guys.
See you Friday, guys. Thanks so much for your time.